So the underlying energy is the Emperor. And y'all know that y'all don't have no problems being stubborn, Scorpios. Y'all know. But it's not about stubbornness. It's about going about and taking action. What we got underneath here? We got the moon. Yep, see, risk taking all over the place. Now I know you're thinking the moon, the seven of swords. That sounds real suspicious. But when you have the knight of swords as your your external energies here, and the sun, like there's nothing that really can get that can be really hot hidden or lied to. Nothing can be hidden in the dark if there's nothing dark around you. If everything's being exposed and seen, then odds are things are just either these things are coming to light, or there's an action that needs to be taken. There's some sort of risk that needs to be taken here. Now I feel like you guys are very much aware of the risks because of the sun here. Very much aware of the risks, the things that you have to overcome along the way towards your journey. But I do get this feeling that with the Knight of Swords coming up, this is also regarding about fighting for what you believe in, fighting for what for your happiness. Now, the world does indicate in the heart of reading that this is a definite change, a transition. You're leaving one phase and going into the next. But you're in that little weird phase of like, okay, you're closing up cycles, you're closing up the cycle, but then you're also transitioning. It's a very celebratory time. It's very loving, very open. It's very awesome. I like the world. And it's crossed by the sun, which talks about clarity. Now, the sun is just, when it's crossing like that, there really isn't a bad meaning for this card or an opposite meaning. It really is just about exposure, seeing things clearly, things coming to the surface, coming to light, right? And I feel like there's some things that definitely come to light. If it's lies, then it's lies. If it's not, then it's just really about things becoming more clear with risks that you're going to be taking and how risky those things will be. Right? But it doesn't really matter if the risk is worth the reward if you don't believe that reward is something that you want, right? Because here in the past you have the Lovers, so you definitely met someone, or you found you know what you love. You've accepted that love that you have for this this career path, this person, lifestyle. You know what you want, you know what you love. And I feel like it was just in that period of time in the past there was a lot of accepting that, just accepting what you love, accepting what you would just pretty much just allowing yourself to just be, allowing yourself to just feel, and without judgment. But this is also understanding this profound connection, and knowing this profound connection exists between you and another person. If this is a relationship for some of you guys out here, yeah, of course, right? Knowing what you love, it's not just enough to just kind of just say, okay, this is it. There's things that obviously need to come into place, that need to take place in order for there to be, full and investing into this love, if that makes sense. Or, putting in work towards the love, or building it, creating it. Which leads us back to the Seven of Swords. Now, like I said, I think this is more of like, taking a leap of faith, taking a risk. It may feel like the risk is bigger than the reward, but when you get the reward, it's definitely like it's just awesome. Like, and you can't really beat that. So I get this feeling with the Seven of Swords here that there is some things coming out, or there's some there's some truths being expressed, or maybe there's a risk in regarding to, like, you're gonna have to take a path or take an avenue that that is not 100%, like you're not sure what the future has to hold. You don't know what will happen in the middle of that. But I feel like for some of you guys, there may be even avoidance here too. Some of us, I feel like some of us here with the Seven of Swords, I don't know if this is you guys, someone else, somebody could be avoiding the situation because, they know the potential for happiness, but again, it's still a risk. And what we saw here was the moon. Now, even though this is like, intense energy and confusion, it can indicate that there is, breaching into fears, right? We're going into that fear territory, this, because it's darkness, right? We're facing all our fears. We're conquering those things that hold us back, those doubts, those everything, right? Trusting our intuition is why the moon is, that's why, I associate the moon with fighting fears, because ultimately you're going to have to trust your intuition as you go through it. And I feel like that's one of those things. You're going to have to trust your intuition to go through it. But now you know what those fears are. You know what's holding you back. You know what those doubts are. Now, for the other person, you have no clue. But all you have to, honestly, with the Knight of Swords coming up in here, I feel like this is about just fighting for what you believe in. Even though you may not be aware of the other side, what they're doing, it's not important, because ultimately you have your own battles, you have your own struggles to deal with. They let them deal with their own stuff, and I feel like you guys would be set in regards to making this happily ever after happen. You know exactly what you need to do and where to go to get you to where you want to be. And in order for that to take place, you have to focus on the self, right? Now, I see in the future the Queen of Wands, so I like that energy, especially with your ancient ruler being Mars. This does indicate to me that you feel more confident, you're taking action, you feel very passionate, and you're able to just be yourself 100%. For some of you guys, you really start to take action and to, create the happiness that you're looking for. But it starts by just accepting what is not exactly, it's not working for you, right? The Eight of Cups. And the Eight of Cups being in your best path to follow / your advice card, or your goal and ambition, is that you want to find what makes you happy. You want to look for that cup. And that cup isn't here right now. You have to go find it. And I think that's where the risk is. Believing that your cup is out there. Believing that you have, that you have the tools to go out and get it. Believing that, or not believing, but just fighting for happiness that tailors to you perfectly, And I feel like it starts by taking ownership of what it is that you want, what it is that you feel, and not letting anything get in your way. Having that stubborn energy that we saw earlier with the Emperor, and using it to your advantage, right? Using it to fuel that urge to find your happiness, to find what makes you feel good about you. And the Eight of Wands is usually a card of, feeling emotionally drained, right? Feeling emotionally drained, not being able to give of yourself anymore. No one's angry or upset about this energy. Nobody's mad or sad. This is leaving something that doesn't serve anybody anymore. This doesn't serve this individual anymore. And I feel like that is why. I think this is important. This is a very important key, because if you are changing, if you're looking to change your life, you have to start somewhere, and where you start is by understanding what it is that you don't want. But it's also understanding that your heart is exactly where you need to focus all that attention and energy. What do you want to feel? Because I feel like ultimately accepting love, opening up to love, knowing what it is that you love at all is the driving force to get you to where you want to be. And now that you're done with your circumstances, right? Mostly done, it's going to even push you even further to get to this place of happiness that the sun can offer. Like the sun is letting you know and showing you with the clarity that it's bringing for you. Now, with the Wheel of Fortune coming up in the outcome here, which is very similar to, I believe Virgo. Virgo got this card here. I love this card because it does talk about a second chance, a second time around, another opportunity to do something differently, right? It's very similar to Judgment, but the thing that makes Judgment different from the Wheel of Fortune is that this is an opportunity at, another shot at something, versus Judgment being like, a transformational sort of period, right? Where you're transforming and you're, your life changes. It's this is a make or break moment. This is about, it's about an opportunity, a door opening, whether you choose to accept it or not, right? It's up to you whether you want this opportunity or not. But this also is about, utilizing what you've learned from the last lessons, like taking everything that you've learned and putting them into practice this time around. Okay, so I love this energy, guys. Another really good reading this weekend. What is going on? I mean, I'm really glad to see the difference, because for a long time you guys have been really struggling. You guys have been really fighting for happiness, and I feel like you guys are just really getting closer to it. It feels like it's a bit of a struggle, and I understand that, considering that, Pluto is your planet, right? And that energy is very intense. But, you guys are really making it for yourselves there, and I'm really proud of y'all. So let's go ahead and see what the Messenger Oracle has to say for the next several weeks. Have courage. Yeah, man, have courage. This is a risk taker, right? This is one of these events where you have to take a risk. You know exactly what it'll lead you towards, happiness, but it's going to require you to be brave, right? Because sometimes things change, things happen, but it's all about bravery. The Queen of Wands, she is fearless. She doesn't care about failure. She doesn't think about failure at all. That she doesn't manifest failure, which makes her, I feel, very lucky, because with her focus being on what needs to be done, her eye on the prize, she doesn't think about there being a possibility of anything being in her way. And if there is, she just tackles it and deals with it when it comes. And I feel like that's you guys becoming more fearless, fighting for what you believe in. But it starts by having courage that, in yourself, right? Fork in the road. I had a feeling, yeah. So fork in the road comes out, talks about making a decision, taking picking a path in which to go down, because ultimately you cannot go the same direction that you have been, right? Like you've been going down that road for some time. There's really not much you can do anymore going forward. You have to make a decision about where you want to go, right? Because you've hit a roadblock. Not a roadblock, but you've hit the end of that path, of that strategy, of that method to kind of go down. Whatever your situation is going to call for you to make a choice, to make a decision about where you're going to go first. And I feel like you definitely should listen to your heart, listen to what you're trying, what your intuition is trying to tell you. Because ultimately, this is about what you love, right? Remember, the foundation is the lovers. What is it that you love? Who do you love? And let that be your guide right now, since this is really heavily on your intuition. And as much as we love to think it and think it and say it and stuff like that, we have to feel it. And I think that's what the sun is trying to illuminate. Everything that we need is is in ourselves, is in our hearts. What do we feel? And I feel like that's going to help you make the decision to whatever decision that you decide to make going forward. Because ultimately, you have to feel good about what you're deciding. You have to feel good about where you're going. And if you can feel good about where you're going, you can feel more confident in yourself that this is the right place for you to be. Right? Because ultimately, there's no such thing as a right or wrong. Right? Because everything's too doggone black and white for there to be a right or wrong. But understanding that, as well as going for your goals, your happiness, what you feel, you're going to be heading in the right direction, family. Okay. Wow. Pretty short reading, I know, this time around, but this is a really good reading. Simple, straightforward, and allows you guys to go back to your families and enjoy your vacations, enjoy your time together with your partner. The risk is big, the step is big, the direction in which you're changing your life is really big. But as long as it feels right for you, as long as it feels good to you that you're making that step, and it can be hard sometimes, especially when it's scary. As long as it feels good, you know that you're doing the best that you can with what you know, and everything happens for a reason, especially to help you towards your highest self. Okay.